Ah, Tamara. Hi,
Hello,
Tamara.
everyone.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, bonsoir.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. We'll see
Hi,
you
Glenn.
soon.
You too.
So many nice, familiar faces here. Thank you for being here. I'm just gonna let people in while we say hello. Be free to unmute and say hello and whatever you want to do before we start officially. It's always nice to say hello to our community, wherever you are.
Hello. Hello, Christoph.
Hello.
Antonella.
Hello, Christoph.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Sorry, there's no electricity here, so there's no light. I'm going to switch
Okay,
the
okay.
camera off.
All right.
We can see you. It's fine, Andrea. It's up
Oh,
to you.
okay. All right. One second.
It's always nice to see people's faces if it's possible.
Yeah.
Very nice. More people, of course.
People coming.
Okay, I think I'm just gonna. Hmm. Okay. Like I was saying, it's very nice to see all of you here. People I know, people I might not know, that's fine. We all we all here for the same reason, so that's great. And people from so many different countries. I love this. This what makes Suzuki so international. And I think maybe we can start. If people keep coming, it's all right. And I'm recording this session because there's a few people who wanted to be here live, but they couldn't. So at least they get a chance to listen to our chat. Also for you, if you want to go back and listen to this again later, um, feel free to to come back to it and listen to it again because I'm sure there will be a few little nuggets that we want to keep, and we're not always able to write down everything. So sorry, I'm a bit busy just letting people in, but um, hello, Helen. Nice to see you. Um, okay, so first of all, let me just say, oh, hello, Natalia. Nice to see you. Nice to see you here. Um, I just wanted to say thank you all for being here. Um, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. I'm doing this series of talks because I would like to, well, what is called empowering parents. This is not a parent talk. It's a talk for everyone, as in parents, teachers, people who might be interested. It doesn't really matter. It's open to everyone. What's important is that we use it to empower our parents so that they can help their children in the process. So if it helps you as a teacher, if it helps as a parent, or if it helps you in any other way in everyday life, I'm sure this is important. So thank you for being here. And yeah, we started this series in November last year, and I'm really glad that we're still going on. I'm trying to do every 2 or 3 months, more or less, one of them. And the aim of these talks is to keep them practical. We use philosophy, but I don't want to just stay in the ether of philosophy in Suzuki because then it's not something that we can take with us and use it. So always trying to make it practical. So one thing that really helps is to keep this interactive. So if there's anything that you would like to ask, you got more than one option. The first one is just write it in the chat, and I will keep an eye on the chat if there's anything that needs to be responded straight away or clarified. And if it's something that can be, we can wait until the end, we can have a quick Q&A at the end. But it's really important that you ask questions or make comments, because that's what we need. We need that interaction to know what we can keep talking about or needs clarifying. So please don't think this is you passive and we are active. We are all here together, and I would love to hear from all of you. If you have something to add, also please feel free to. You can also raise your hand at any point. Well, I'm not sure if I can see that. Make sure that you can put your hand up, and then hopefully it will come up like that. And if it does, then I will definitely be able to see it. For now, I would like to invite our guest speakers, Michelle and Christophe. I'm going to say something very quickly about both of them, but Michelle and Christophe, if I say anything that is not correct, please let me know. I'm going to start with Michelle only because I said a few wrong things about her in the publicity, and I'm really sorry. I wrote your name wrong at least once. I said that you're from Australia. Sorry.
Yeah, I forgave you for that.
Yeah, sorry about that. I also said you're from the Netherlands for some reason. I don't know.
No, I won't forgive you for that.
Yeah. So Michelle is a wonderful piano teacher. She's from New Zealand, and she lives now in Zurich, in Switzerland. And I'm sure whoever's here from the piano world will know her, but she's a wonderful person and a wonderful teacher. So I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And Christophe is a very special violin pedagogue from France. Of course, I get it right, please. And he was one of the original Suzuki teachers in Europe. And for me, especially, very, very special. Christophe has always been very special for me because he trained my Suzuki teacher when I was little. So we have the connection, a little bit like my Suzuki grandfather. So it's very nice to have you here as well.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to... Sorry?
We keep in the family.
We keep in the family, yes. I'm going to try to spotlight all three of us so that we have it. Where am I? You can see I do this all the time. I forget every time how to do it. Right, there we are. Oh no, I did it wrong. Sorry. Stay with me. Oh my gosh.
Zoom changes every time we open it too.
Yes, true. Yes, true. There we go.
There we are.
Every single time.
So everyone who's here, you can see all three of us, but at any point, if you want to see the whole grid, you can just go to the top where it says view and you can change to gallery view. But I think it's easier for everyone to be able to see the main three speakers. Great. So the title of today's talk is about the joy in practice. That's the main thing. I titled it first, like from battles to breakthroughs, because I also want to keep things real, and I don't want people to think that every time we practice has to be joyful and has to be amazing. There will be times that will be hard. There will be times that we have conflict, and we need to also learn to deal with that and to be able to go from that to a more joyful space. And also that the fact that practice for any musician is not necessarily always joyful. Sometimes it's something that has to happen to get somewhere that will be joyful. But unless we go through the process of the practice, going from something that we don't know into something that we can actually play, that process sometimes can feel a little bit of an effort. And any tool that we have to make it less stressful or less difficult, then I think it is always welcome. So that's the reason why I wanted to do this talk, but also because it is a joy to be able to play an instrument, and I think it's important that we bring that in every single practice. So I'm going to say, to start with, that even though a practice can be sometimes a bit of an effort, let's try to always find one thing that we can enjoy. In Suzuki, we have the concept of review, and review can be a joyful part of the practice, because something that children can play really well, and they can just enjoy playing it. They don't have to work hard. It's something that they can effortlessly they're able to just play and have fun with it. Having fun is also a good thing. At the end of the day, remember, we're talking about children. Children need to also have fun and have play. And I think that's also important in part of the practice. Let me start with you, Michelle, if that's okay. Just, is there anything that, with what I said, or with the theme of joyful practice, is it something that you have encountered, or any stories or anything that has something that you've seen with some parents that might have helped and you want to share?
Well, I'm actually really lucky because I have a really super bunch of parents. I know we all have great parents, but I have really creative parents, you know? And when it comes to practicing, I give them a few ideas and then off they go. And they're really quite talented at that sort of thing. And I do like to hope that when my parents have difficulties, that we always discuss that, because that's super important. And they generally always come to me. I get texts on Sunday mornings about children who are having complete breakdowns and what do I do? And as a teacher, I'm actually quite happy to spend a few minutes reading that and answer it, because I know that will make the rest of their week better and it'll become more joyous because I've helped them in that moment. And for me, the few minutes it might take to think of something, and it will help a parent just calm down and do practice, is huge. So I think the teacher and the parent for this whole practice thing have to work really closely together. You know, so it's not, I have a few parents who get frustrated with, more the teenage age. The little ones are difficult because they need new ideas, but when the children get to teenagers, it becomes more of a, life event. And then practicing is suddenly a whole new ball game. And we have different expectations of what's going to happen during that time, So I think it was interesting. I asked my son yesterday, because I had to give a talk about practice today to some teachers, and I said to him, so what do you think the most important thing about practice is? Like, you give me a few tips, because I've practiced with him since he was little. And this was interesting. He came up with, I'm just going to look what I wrote, motivation. And he said, yeah, motivation, Mum, you need motivation to practice. I was like, okay. And we talked a bit about that. And then he goes, quality over quantity. And I was like, ooh, okay. So I didn't think that was bad. So he's not for a long, horrible, boring practice. He wanted excellent practice. This one was funny. He goes, know when to stop. And I think that's something really important. I discussed that with a lot of teachers today. If practice is going great, stop before it gets bad. Like, just, that's something that keeps the joy in the practice. If it's going well, know when that moment is and don't overstep your line. I thought that was interesting. My son said that. And he goes, Mum, you always praise my efforts, which is a two-edged sword. Because, if he comes along with complete garbage, or your students come along and it's all a disaster, you go, you made it to the end. You got there. Now let's work on the left hand, or something. But, you've got to really, it's been hard work for these children, and he's like, Mum, you always say something's gone well, even if I know it sounds bad. And he said, and then we work. So then he's happy to work on something, because I've accepted the fact he's going to try, even if it's not great yet, he's going to try. I thought that was interesting. He likes, he loves having a goal. And he said, I always need a goal when I practice, otherwise I just play stuff. And he also said, review. He finds review really hard, because he's out of the books now, and he's like, I don't want to do review because it's so hard. but he knows it's good for him because it has all the skills and everything he needs. But I thought from a 16-year-old, he could have written a talk for me. It was great. He came up with really great points. So I think that, you know, when we teach our students, I mean, he's 16 now. I would hope, and I do ask my students when we play and work together, I do often ask them, especially with review, for example, like, why are we doing this piece? Why did I ask you to do this piece? I think we should play Allegro today. And the piano, that would mean immediately a certain skill of down-ups, and we would absolutely need that. And if we don't have that working well in Allegro, then we can't play our book 3 pieces. We can't play our book 2 pieces, let alone the book 3 pieces. So we go back and do the skill and then practice, practice, practice. So my hope is, and it's interesting, because most of my students now, when I ask them, why did I give you this review piece? None of them say, you know, because you're being annoying or anything, or you want me to practice more. They think, they're starting to think a little bit more. This is the advanced students. They think a little bit more why they have to do it. And I think if the kids start thinking why they're doing something, it suddenly becomes doable. You know, even if they can't manage the skill 100% yet, or the point we're asking them to practice, they sort of know where they have to go. And for parents, that's super helpful, because rather than having just do your review and the kids just play, which they do anyway, you just play, it's easy. While it's easy, they're still mastering something. You know, that the review is getting better. It's not just like running through, you know, learning vocabulary. It's actually getting better. But I thought that those are just a couple of things that I thought were really quite interesting from a child's point of view, that obviously we've managed to instill in them, like, over the years. And I would hope that all the teachers out there are doing that for children. You know, so when they're finished in the books, that they have this sort of overview of what practice was. And then he wrote somewhere, oh, and I did like practicing with your mum. I said, oh, okay, that's not so bad. Like, I couldn't have been that mean. Couldn't have been that
Actually,
mean.
coming from a 16-year-old, that's the best thing, probably.
Yeah. I thought it was really nice. He still loves practicing. He turns up when I finish at the end of the day on my doorstep, like, ready to practice now. And I'm like, no, I've been teaching for 8 hours.
Thank you, Michelle. That's lovely.
You're welcome.
You touched on so many interesting points. I'm gonna keep to a couple. The first one that I think we need to keep in mind to keep things joyful is to stop before it's too late. The quality versus quantity. If we need the quantity, we need the repetitions, but we need to make sure that the quality ones, and also we need to make sure that the actual practice is not too long. Otherwise, attention, quality itself just goes, because we get tired. And we get tired as well as parents if we're practicing with the kids. So I think it's important to keep it short. The other thing that you mentioned at the very beginning was expectations from parents. I think that's another good one to keep in mind. Sometimes parents have expectations, especially when they're older, and we need to keep our expectations in line as well. To make sure
Teachers do too.
Oh, yeah,
Teachers,
yeah.
We really need to. It's like a child is as a child is on the day. That's just how they are.
Yes.
You know? And I think that's the important thing that we have. We take the child as they are on that day, and we work with what we've got. You know? And I want them to go out happier than when they came in, no?
Yeah. Thank you. Christoph, would you like to add something to this, or?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Michelle. I can remind on the quality versus quantity. It's very important, especially when you deal with very young children. The concentration with the young children is very short and very intense. That's why you shouldn't keep on one item too long. So for the beginner, especially the first years, and even the second year, you know, I have a couple of words I say, you know, first listen regularly, because it's your environment that this will ring in the head of the child. It's the environment in which he is, and then you get the relation with the mother tongue, and it doesn't take much to listen. You just put the tape on your computer, not very loud, very important. Classic music doesn't need to be very loud to be absorbed. Second, short, yes, short, because they don't concentrate long. and each item you present, you should be able to take care of that, especially with the beginners and even with people already in book 1 and book 2. It's very important, and otherwise you lose them. It's better to have several items, a little bit short, and they keep the attention fresh, than working too much on one item. I remember when one mother, a long time ago, they said, "Oh, you know what? We really worked hard. We really spent at least half an hour getting that violin on the shoulder, and so we are really proud of it." The child was 3 years old, and I say to them, "I'm glad, your child didn't, throw your violin on your face, because continue like that, and this might happen, it doesn't take half an hour to play the violin on the shoulder." But these kind of things happen. People sometimes, they mean good, but they don't realize this is a 3 years old, this is a 4 years old, And also I've noticed, put the practice in the schedule of the daily schedule. Make it happen that it's going to happen. And if it happens regularly, the child doesn't feel any fear. It's something that happens every day. There's no anxiety. And it's very important when you are dealing with learning. If you want to do it, enjoy it, but if you suppress, if you take away the anxiety with the regularity and the same time frame, if possible, that helps really a lot. That helps really a lot. That I remember when I went to the kids, the schedule of all the family was in front of my eyes in the kitchen. I could refer to it all the time. Everybody was here. You go to practice. Here you go to your homework. Here that does this. But it's very helpful, and you can invite the child to see. You see, this is your practice time, and Dad is doing this at this time, and I am doing this, and your brother is doing that. The child can see that the practicing is part of the life of the family. It's in the schedule of the family. And I find that very important and very useful. Another thing is the attitude. As a Suzuki teacher, you need to have an attitude, and you are going to meet challenges, big challenges. The joy of doing things, of practicing, it doesn't come to you just like that by magic because it's Suzuki method, but the Suzuki method will bring you the tools to do the magic. And one of the magic is I would say that the sympathy between the parents, the cooperation between the parents and the teacher. So they should act as a team, and we should, I would say, test the temperature very regularly with what's going on in the week. For example, when any student, I ask this question, whether it's small or bigger: how was the week? How was your week? And I know from what they say, if it was a good week, if they haven't done anything, if the child was sick or anything else. And from then on, I can adjust better my teaching. If the child has been sick, I won't be too demanding. If they had a good practice session, maybe I can ask things that I don't ask usually. But it gives me a temperature, a really good indication to focus on what kind of style, what kind of attitude I need to have. And I say to the parents also, this is important. Find how the child is feeling and get ready for a good day, get ready for a bad day. And if we talk about regularity, but that doesn't mean, we don't do anything, and the child, poor child, and if we want to build strengths, success, and joy, and it's related to regularity. And when the times are more difficult, you do less. This way the parents and the teacher can acknowledge the child doesn't feel very good. So, and the child will be really considerate of your attitude, say, oh, he knows that I don't feel good, but he still asks me something to do. Now I think that's how you build strengths also. You meet challenges. The difficulty is, I don't feel good today. So what is my choice? I quit or I keep on going? There will be challenges in the life of the child. So because there's a little challenge, you stop. What do we teach to children, teachers, or parents? So we should, I think, pay very much attention to that. We can modify our expectation, not make them too high or too little, depending also on what the child feels also. It's very important to respect that also. It's important to demand, to have expectation, but it's also important to acknowledge when the child is not feeling good, so you don't overpower the child, okay? So, of course, these changes, there are many different teaching styles. When the child grows, it's different, but I don't want to monopolize my talk on this. It might come a little bit later. I wanted to focus from the beginning. What are the issues? What are the challenges and ideas that we can keep in mind to make things more easy and lead the child towards a nice practicing as well.
Thank you, Christophe. That was wonderful. Yes, a lot to unpack in there as well. I really like the idea, which is something that we always say as teachers, but I think it's very important that we keep practice as one of the daily habits, something that happens every day, and like brushing the teeth or like having a meal. And I think it's important, like you said, to have it so clear that it's for everybody in the family. Everybody knows what's happening. So we know whether it's something that happens in the morning or in the afternoon or after something else happening. I always recommend my parents, the parents of my studio, to build that habit of practice next to another one that they already have, because then it's much easier. And like you mentioned, Christophe, then there's no anxiety or stress about it. It just happens every day. One day will be longer and shorter, but it's still happening every day. And the regularity is what's important. And what I found personally as a parent is that sometimes there are days that they're tired or there's not enough time or whatever it is, and you say, okay, instead of not having a practice, let's do a short practice. And when we do that, the short practice is never that short. It is short, but it's not really as short as you would think. Once they start practicing, it's actually easier to continue for them. You can still keep it shorter than normal, but as soon as you get the instrument out, it's much easier to keep going. The difficult thing sometimes is to take the instrument out. Sorry.
But has to be avoided also. It's when I mean regularity, it find an adequate time frame. We must avoid today I do it before school at 7 o'clock in the morning. 2 days after we do it before bed at 6 o'clock. That's chaotic, and the child doesn't feel good with this kind of schedule. So as much as possible, find the same time frame, especially in the first years. After, it's a little bit different when they grow up, and still I think it's important. I know if I schedule my practicing before 9, I can do things, but if I don't do that, that's sometimes the practicing time goes away, even for me as an adult, and so it's to be noticed also for the family time, a good time frame, which is different from one family to another, of course.
I think
that's super true. Michelle, maybe you want to add something.
I think we should add to that, because I love the fact we ask how the child's doing, but I'm sure there's parents there too. I think I also, and Christophe definitely does this, I'm sure, we also ask how the parents are doing. And the thing is, when the parent has to practice with a child, especially these days when we're all working and we're doing other things, the parent needs some calm too. So if you're a parent of a child, make sure you look after yourself. So as when you're with your child, you're like a pool of calm and you're ready to help your child from a calm place. Because there's nothing worse than coming to your child and you're like, I've just been to work and I'm hungry and So rather sit down for another 10 minutes, have a cup of tea, put your feet up for 5 minutes, and then go and start your practice with your child, than go rushing and making a big mess of it, because your child needs your 100% attention, and you're listening and you're caring, and they're sponges. They take everything you're feeling and put it into their music, and this time is about them. So if you need time to chill out and calm down, you should really take it. You know, even if it's sitting outside for 5 minutes or reading a bit of a book, or if it's in the morning before breakfast and you need to have breakfast, eat your breakfast, get up early, eat breakfast, and then do the practice. If you can't, you know, wait that long, make sure you take some time for you, because this is a long journey. The practicing is a long, many, many years, and you don't want to be feeling like you're left out of this as a parent. I think it's super important. And then everything sort of starts to work better, because our schedules are ridiculous. Like, I don't know how people, I think people do too much now. We just do too much. There's no time for children to get bored, no time for children just to fiddle around on their instruments anymore, and just have fun. And, you know, that's sort of disappearing. And I just wish people would do less for their child and just have maybe one sport and one music, and that's enough. And play with your friends, or, you know, I feel like children are packed off here from 7:30 in the morning till 7 at night. It's a really long day for them, you know. It's like my deepest wish is that children had more time.
No, that's very true. There's a couple of things that you said that I'd like to talk a little bit more. The first one is for the parents to be in the right place. And something you said off air, let's say, before we started this talk today, you were saying that, Michelle, you were saying that the method is nothing without the philosophy. And what I'm seeing here now, what you're saying as well, is that we also need to remember why are we doing this practice for? And it's not necessarily just for the next week lesson. It's not necessarily for the end of year concert or recital or whatever it is. What is it that we are really doing it for? You know, why are we spending all this time working so hard with the child every single day? You know, there must be something more than just getting through the day, getting through the week before the next lesson, before the next concert. So I think we all need to sometimes step back and think, okay, wait a second. Have I forgotten why am I doing this for? Can I remind myself, am I doing this because I want something better for my child? You know, I would like them to have their life full of music. I would like them to have, you know, a better understanding on how to connect and talk to people, for example. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about conflicts and resolutions. I mean, that's something we need in the world for sure. You know, we need to be able to resolve things that are happening. So that can happen in the practice. But we need to really remember that it's not just about the instrument that they're playing. It's a lot more. So I don't know if you want to add anything on that, but I think that's important to keep it in mind.
Yeah, to move on from that, I think the real point is we're teaching the children to listen. And the child can't listen if the parent's not listening to the child. If the teacher's not listening to the child, then the child won't think it needs to listen to anybody. And we're not talking about, am I playing in tune? Am I playing the notes the fastest? We're talking about listening to their hearts. So, you know, you can play many, many wrong notes, and you can play many, many wrong intonations. But if it's coming from a place of love to start with, it will always improve. It will always improve. This is why every person in that group, you know, the teachers and the children and the parent, need to feel taken care of and also heard in order for it to work. And then the wrong notes disappear, and then the intonation improves and everything improves, because you're listening in a different way. And this is what practice should be. This is why it's so important for the parents to take time, you know, so you feel good. And it's important for the child to be in a positive place, because if they're not, you can just ask all sorts of things and it will never ever happen, you know. So that's, if we go back to that, I think that's just the extension of that, really. Like, it's really about listening to the child's heart and the parent. I mean, parents are just as important in this role.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, Christophe, earlier you were also talking about the spirit. I think it's pretty much the same idea, to have that.
Yeah, talking about the spirit, we have to consider two things here. that when you teach, you bring a knowledge to the children. You bring your knowledge. You have been trained for that. You have experienced that, so that there is a technique to transmit. But if this technique is transmitted, and I'm glad you mentioned the fact that we teach also the child, beside the violinist, we are also teaching the child. It's very important. But if we don't tune into the child and just bring our stuff, ignoring how the child feels, and we are taking off our intuition, I find. And the intuitive part in teaching is very important. For example, you have a child with such level. We have to teach this and this. The child is playing Etude in book 1 or Mignon, book 2, whatever. You know what to teach. You have been prepared to that. But if you don't spend sometimes it's very short, a little time just being silent in yourself, and it can be when the child plays to you, just saying nothing, just being quiet. I mean, really be silent for a while. And so you just can absorb what the child is giving you. And then you let your intuition come in. So then you put your knowledge more in order in relation to what the child needs. And I found that very much in group lessons. Sometimes, at the beginning, I made plans, and I need to do this like that, and this and this and this, or this piece like that. And at the beginning, I followed my plan, and it was not successful. And one day I decided, but you made the plan, but you heard them, it's not what they need. So, and then I decided to tune into the children and not say much. Oh, play this piece, please. I really like that piece. We had to review it. And I keep quiet. Sometimes I don't even play, or even if I play, I don't say anything. But in that time, I let my intuition work. And then I find the plan of my lesson completely in the right order, in disorder, but in the right order of the child needs. And I think we need to find that in the private lesson also. And I'm glad, Michel, you mentioned that the parent is not always prepared to teach the child. Sometimes, it comes from the work, comes from doing shopping, and then, I forgot practicing. You need to have a little distance, a little space in which you are going to teach to your child. So whether let's take a bit of orange juice before the practice, or let's have a little cake to prepare that time with the child, which gives a little bit more distance to what can ever comes with our emotion, which are not always very positive sometimes, whether we teach our children or we aim for the best, but it's not always the best that is happening. So it's balancing, I find, for the parent and teacher, that time where we need to have the intuition of what to do with what we know, what we heard from the teacher in the lesson, or us from what we have been training for, to teach in an appropriate way to the child. I think it is very valuable. I find that much more successful, rather than stuffing the child with our knowledge. So the concept of transmitting technique and listening to the child, who is as a child now in the moment, how he's feeling, can help us to have more, as my dear colleague Ed Kreitman would say, teach with a balance point, making a point of balance in your teaching between the knowledge and your intuition as a teacher. And this grows. If you take the habit of doing it, it grows, and you become maybe not so good at the beginning, but you get better with practicing. It makes perfect, or better at least.
Definitely, you get better at it. Yes, I think there's a couple of things here that also I'd like to get into a more practical point for this. How can we bring all of that into as for parents, because you mentioned as teachers, we develop that intuition, but I think as parents, we need to also develop that intuition. And I think that the first step, like you said, is better listening. Something Suzuki used to always say, listen more. I think the more we listen to the children in this case, but listen to their hearts, to what they're really feeling, not just listen to what they're saying, but what is behind the words or what is behind what they're playing. That's when we start developing that intuition a bit more. So listening, I think, is super, super important. And the other thing is as well,
Está súper mal.
sorry. I was just saying, the other thing is also to keep a bit calm and not to be reactive so much, not to be so much in the head. Sometimes just a few breaths while the child might be playing, just to settle down, that might also help parents to respond from a better place than just kind of like, oh, that was wrong again, trying to find a place where we can be more responsive, more and less reactive. But Michelle, maybe you have some more practical.
I was just
ideas on
wondering,
how-
here's a question for the parents. Who actually really enjoys playing with practicing with their children? Who really enjoys it? I
Oh.
can't see. So maybe put a thumbs up somewhere. Let me have a look.
Yeah,
See
or
if I
you can
make
write it in the
bigger.
comments. If there's anybody who really enjoys.
Yeah, write in the comments. Because it's quite interesting, I think, for people, parents especially, do you go about this practice going, oh, this is going to be fun? Like, we have a new task. I really want to do it. Let's see if we can do it. How can we do this? And, I like to give my... Olga. Hi, Olga. It's challenging. It is challenging. But I want parents to have joy out of this. I really want parents to get a buzz when their child has achieved even a teeny tiny step and it works. It should be like you should both celebrate together that you've done this. So don't put the bar way up here. Just remember that to get up here, you have to do this step and then this step and then this step. So if you can manage a few of those in a week, or just the one thing we've given you, that should be reason to bake muffins on a Friday night or something. And I'm the sort of person who believes in hanging carrots in front of the child. Here's something else. I love it when they want to do it, but hang on. What is that? Hang on. Actually, getting practice is super stressful as they flat out refuse. Yep. And I desperately don't want to get irritable as I only want to show love around music. Bit of a blind. The regular appropriate time slot is, of course, the answer, but somehow this is not working yet. Catherine, can you write how old your children are? And then we know. It's quite typical. Yes, tell us, yeah.
A 4-year-old who's
Okay.
been 6 months with the cello on the Suzuki method, and an
Okay.
8-year-old
Mhm.
who's playing piano, but not with the Suzuki
Okay.
method.
Do you have more problems getting the cello to practice than the piano?
Yes,
both like-
I think she's copying her brother. So it's more a whole dynamic going on, which is maybe not the point of this conversation.
No, but that's fine. Because
But
this
they're
is what
young,
we deal with all the
so
time.
it's challenging.
Because I was going to say my children learnt violin as well as piano. And the problem with violin I found was, as a practicing mum, was getting the violin out of the case. And I imagine getting the cello out and ready is something else. If the violin was hanging on the stand on the special thing we had, then it was easy. We could just walk up, the violin's there, I'd had it tuned and they could play. But if it had to be gotten out of a case, which was in a corner or somewhere else, that was like one step too many. So I always tried to make practice really easy for my children. We did like to put it in between dinner sometimes because we couldn't practice in the morning. School starts really early. So I think I know Hannah Biss does this too. She used to do practice after dinner before dessert. So like if you have dessert at night time, have dinner and then we're going to do practice, and when we have our dessert afterwards, so there's something to look forward to. You can bundle treats, bundle things people like or the children like for after they've done their practice. And I'm all for one of they say you need to know your child's currency at all stages. So we went through Lego, we went through baking, we went through swimming pool visits, we went through a movie thing. Like, they would earn with how much practice they did, and I'd get more and more excited for them as this happened while we were practicing, because at the end of the week we get to go to the movies, or at the end of the month we got to go and do something else. And at one point I even actually paid my son to practice, because his currency was money and he just wanted money, and I was like, oh God, no. Okay, you can have 50 cents a day or something. And he was hell-bent on 100 days, and I was like, I'm going to be poor, I'm going to be poor. But in the end, I think he earned, $25 out of me or something at once. And it was like, whatever, I really don't mind. He practiced every day, and he was just obsessed with earning his little bit of money. And that's all that mattered. And he improved so much, he didn't really notice he was doing it. So I'm definitely a person who tries to encourage having a goal and having something fun at the end of practice. Make it as easy as you can for your child to get to the instrument. And when the child's there, don't get all serious on them. Like, oh, can't wait to hear twinkles today. How do you think twinkles are going to be? Oh, that's fun. And find something interesting in them. I thought I heard twinkles the other day when I heard this piece on the radio. I think I did. You're playing a big person's piece, like Bach double and the violin, or it's all little playmates and the piano. It's all over the place. And then the children start listening differently too. If you act excited, it will help the child. But the other point of that is, when a child makes a mistake, here's the other question for parents. What do you do when your child makes a mistake? Like, do you jump in and save them right away? Or do you let them solve it for themselves? Or do you tell them off? Oh, not another mistake again. You can't do that wrong. We've done it 10 times, or 5 times, or 500 times. So that's the other question. What do you do when your child makes a mistake?
It's always so much more
Are
difficult.
part of learning, right?
It's always so much more difficult as a
Yeah.
parent.
It's really hard to stay joyful when your child makes a mistake. We tend to laugh.
Yeah, this is
Don't play too fast.
this is a crucial question, and it brings a really sensitive point. Thank you very much, Michelle. At some point when the child grows, he can play, let's say, book 1. He's even in book 2. He has some repertoire. He's learning to develop his memory. The early pieces he can play at a much better level. And I think that comes at some point the time where he needs to know how to do things. But in order to own his practicing and be happy to be independent and responsible, like other parents of the world wish their kids to be, the people that are basically normal, with normal expectations, not too high expectations, I would say. And I find myself asking the parents to ask questions about the practice. First, the parents, they go through the child. What do we have to do? If we want the child to be mindful with his practicing and be responsible one day and independent, for a couple of years, I go with the parents with, what do you have to do? How we have to do this exercise? Yeah, we have to review this, and we have to do a preview of this piece, okay? So that's one thing. The second thing, how do you do this exercise? You remember what your teacher say? How was the exercise supposed to do? Because when the child does it, and the parents see that he's making mistake again, instead they say, "Oh, you did it wrong again." But do you remember what the teacher said? How to do this exercise? By asking more to the child a question, for which he won't find the answer right away, but by taking the habit of making the child think about what he does, he will find the solution. I constantly ask questions to my students, whether they are not advanced and when they are advanced, to have a participative private lesson or group class. And Then what happens? Oh, we need to do it like that. Yes, yes, yeah. Well, okay, then what do you do? Well, you do it. Yes. And that's it? That's it? No. Last question is, so the parents ask, so how was it? Do you think you did it? Or you didn't do it? So, and the child at the beginning, he won't know. He say, I don't know, or I don't care, or I don't know, But after a while, if the parent asks a question without being emotional about it, emotional about the mistake, the child will have to find inside the answer inside himself. And when he starts to find it himself, he will lead himself or herself towards what we call mindful practicing. And mindful practicing is being conscious of what you do. And once you have solved the basic problem of setting the instrument, placing your body this way, going with the piano one way and the violin this way, you need to be more concerned how you do things. And it's a process of being more conscious. And the parent just asks questions. What do you have to do? How to do it? Please do it. And ask the child, how was it? And remembering that there's a video of the point of the lesson, or things are written on how to do things. The parent took note already, so there's no excuse with the video and the note that the no argument. Oh no, the teacher said that. The parent, no, he didn't say that. Let's look at the video. So, and then there is no more questions. Okay, but I think this, after when the child grows, this process of asking question, you don't need to be emotional, just a question, and be happy you get a silence or an answer. But if you keep asking the question, an answer will come. Maybe not the right one, it doesn't matter. But at some point, the question, the right answer will come. And you can congratulate, of course, the child. Oh, you remember what the teacher said? Okay, very good. So please. Play with that. That would be wonderful. And it's an extra reason to congratulate the child, because he's not only doing things right, but he's more conscious of what he's supposed to do to be successful. And he can, of course, be more proud of himself. And this should be acknowledged. This kind of growth should be acknowledged from the parents and also from the teacher. Okay.
Just a couple of things from what you said, just to paraphrase it a little bit. One is the metacognition part of it, the child learning how to learn and why that process of inquiry that is very important to understand how to learn something or how are they able to do something. I think that's really, really important. And the other thing that what you suggested really helped was that they take charge of the practice. That they are, yes. It's their practice. It's not the parent or the teacher telling them what to do. They take charge of it, whether it's, what I'm going to get out of it, whether it's what Michelle was saying, a goal later, or whether it's, what am I really going to learn and how am I going to learn it and how am I going to do it when they're a bit old as well. Maybe they can decide when they can do the practice in the day, and they can write it in the chart it's not just the parent telling you you need to do it after this. No, when do you want to do your practice? Okay, let's decide together. Let's see when we can do it together, so it works for all of us, not just for the parent or just for the child. So yeah, thank you, Christophe. I think that's super valid point. Sorry, Helen, do you want to say something?
Who, me?
Yeah, just because you're unmuted.
Oh. No,
it's
I'm
okay.
not. I'm not muted now, am I? No, I'm not muted. I was just going, I don't know, I didn't put my hand up or anything, but I did want to say something, because I remember being in Japan and learning for the first time in the 1970s what it was like to make a mistake in Japan. Everybody just laughs, and it went completely 100% against my own upbringing. That's just not what you do. The last thing you're allowed to do is laugh at somebody with a mistake. You just have to either ignore it or scold it or change it. But in Japan, they go, and everybody laughs, including Suzuki, and all the Kenkyusei used to laugh. And it took me, several weeks. Christoph, you must understand what I'm saying because you've been there. You know what it's like. They regard just them like, oops, it's not an error so much as you just slipped up. You just had a little slip, little banana skin slip, and then you go back to normal. And I have to say, I did that with my own children after a few years of tuition from Suzuki, and it did work. I mean, it was a hell of a lot better than what I was doing before that, I can tell you, as a parent.
Takes off the drama of the mistake. No
Yeah,
drama.
exactly.
No drama.
Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah. That's very important. Mistakes are something to learn from, not something to be told off about. So yes, definitely we don't want the drama that goes with it.
It's particularly important for those children who are like perfectionists these days. Like if they can learn to laugh at their own mistakes, you're 90% of the way there. Because perfectionists have a really hard time of just letting go, and they need to learn that. So we spend a lot of time doing that when we can. I think it's very Kiwi too. We don't take things all that seriously. It's all good. It's all good.
Before we open Q&A 100%, is there anything else, Christoph or Michelle, you would like to add to what we're saying, or shall we just try to, keep 5-10 minutes to anybody who wants to ask any questions?
I think we should just answer questions.
Yeah, I think it's probably more useful for everyone. So if there's anyone who would like to say anything, just put your hand up or unmute or whatever it is that you would like to do, or even write it in the chat if you don't feel like you can do that. Actually, there is before we go into that, there's a comment in the chat from Olga saying, I think it's also very important for me as a parent to make some notes about daily practice and review them to realize how much progress happened. Very important. That's something that when Michelle was saying about having goals and keeping something in every day you get something little bit. It could be something like a jar, and you keep putting things in, something visual to see the progress and the fact that you've been doing it for so many days, because it's so difficult to see progress one day at a time. But when you see after a month or after a few weeks the progress, the amount of practice you've done, it makes a big difference, and you can also see it in the results. But something visual can be very important. So I think that's also something to keep in mind. It helps many families.
I remember the suggestion of one of their colleagues. Unfortunately, she passed away, and she talked about during the lesson, when there was a good point done, and she would put the marble in the jar, and then the child could see, oh, I'm doing good, I'm going good. And sometimes there were many marbles in the jar, and sometimes not so many, but there were sometimes marble. And when I think about it, we could have daily jars and weekly jars, so that we can evaluate what has been happening.
Parents could do a holiday jar for themselves every time they've had a great holiday or a great bad practice to put money in. So when they go on holiday, they go on, something special just for mum while they're on holiday, or something special just for dad while they're on holiday. That would be a good thing. I would do that. I wish I'd known that earlier.
Michelle, can I just ask you? There's a comment here in the chat saying, any advice about talking to parents about not over scheduling? You mentioned
about not overscheduling.
Yeah,
it's a hard one. It's a really difficult one. But I think you do need to have the conversation with parents if you're a teacher here, and parents listen closely, because we complain that our children are stressed. We complain that the children are having more anxiety than ever before. They're not coping with things. They're not coping with change very well. They're having real issues in sleeping. They're having issues coping with schoolwork. It's happening all over the place. And if you look at children's schedules, like when I was little, I'm quite old, I had a music and I had a sport. I hated sport, but Mum said you need to go and do something, so I played hockey. And that was fine. I biked to my hockey once a week on Saturday, which was on the other side of town, and I went to my hockey practice once a week after school. That's 2 hours. That's nothing, and I played hockey for my school. But my practice, my piano was the thing I loved, and then I wanted to do more instruments. So I did the odd one, and didn't really practice much, but I did all the extra instruments too because they were fun and I enjoyed them. But there was never, ever the possibility for me to do anything else. My mum would say, no, we don't have the money. Even if she could have afforded it, no, you're not doing it. No, because she knew full well I needed time just to come home from school, do nothing for a little bit, then do my practice, and then play with a friend. And maybe I might go to the piano again because it was fun. We don't know. Or maybe I would go and do my other instrument. It didn't matter. And I never, ever as a child was bored. I was never bored. And if I was bored, Mum had plenty of things for me to do. There was apples to be peeled for dinner. There was the washing to be folded. There was the things to... I'm not bored. I'm really not bored. Nothing to do. So I was constantly finding things for myself to do. And people don't give their children jobs these days. They really don't. They have a house cleaner come in. My children have to clean their bathroom and they have to clean their rooms and they have to do all this stuff because I think it belongs to growing up. If they're out from 7 in the morning till 7 at night, they don't have time to do that. And sure, they might be a good tennis player, but then when they leave home, they're going to bring their washing home to me because they can't do their washing. That's not happening. And so I personally like to encourage the parents, do less than more. Please do less than more. Teach your child life skills and spend time with them. Teach your child how to do the washing. Teach your child how to bake or cook. Or, there'll be a time when, if I'm really sick, my children will cook for me and take care of everything because I'm unable to do it. And it's a huge relief to me that my children are capable of looking after themselves. Now, if I'd had them bundled up with courses non-stop, they wouldn't have time for that. Maybe I'm just a hardcore mum, I don't know. But I do think it's important to know as a parent, my child needs time to be bored because boredom doesn't really exist. It just means my brain hasn't gone somewhere that I haven't thought of yet. Because children are super inventive. We don't have to give them something to do all the time. They will find things to do. You just have to keep your eye on them, that they're not in trouble. You can't let them roam wildly these days. That doesn't work. And I realise a real issue is that other parents do overschedule children, and children will feel like they're missing out if they're not doing the latest art, ballet, something drama, any of these courses because all their friends are doing them, and that becomes an issue. How do you not send your child there when all the other children are going? So there's a real problem with society at the moment that I think we're overscheduling, really overscheduling the children. And it'd be nice to make a movement that sort of tried not to, without ostracizing the children and without the children feeling lonely. So if you have other like-minded parents near you, organise a play date in the garden or just have someone over to play. You don't have to organise anything. Just there's a garden out there, or we'll go to the park and let them run round for an hour. They'll be happy and they'll love to go to sleep. They have much more excitement in them. And then when you sit down to music and you go, oh, this sounds like you're being chased by something in the park, the kids know what that feels like. It's not a pretend thought. That's sort of what I would say about it.
Thank you, Michelle.
Michelle.
There's another question.
Thank you very much. I really enjoy what you are saying about overloading children with activity, and they don't even have time to get bored. And during that boredom time, it's things get created somewhere. So it's as parents, I think the parents, we talk quite often about it, and save some time for them to do nothing, And if you don't know how to do, put it in the schedule. This is your time to do nothing. Enjoy what to do, whatever you want. I want to rebound on the issue of talking with parents. Sometimes when there's an issue, it's very important to make a time with the parents. And so make a special time where the child is not there. Schedule it. And that I do that very regularly. And sometimes, parents just come and they say what the problem is. And quite often I find myself of just listening, give them a space to say what the problem is. I would say, Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it must be difficult. Yes. Yes. Good, good. And the meeting is just about me nodding this here, nodding there, and after half an hour, the parents said, "Oh my, really, I'm really glad we could talk about this problem." And say, "Oh, I'm glad you could say to me," and very often it brings to me informations about the life of the parents, the difficulty, and I include that in my teaching. I'm more considerate of that item. But the interesting part, sometimes I get a call a couple of days after the meeting with the parents. And, I remind and say again, I just listened and didn't say much. And the parents say to me, "Oh, Mr. Bossoy, our talk really, what you said, what's really helpful in the talk." I say nothing. And the parent was just needed the time to express the problem. So, and for the parent, that was a solution. And it's very it happens more with the mothers and the fathers. It's more hard for the father to say they have a problem with a child. They are more proud, or it's more difficult. Some can, some cannot, but it's more easy for the mothers. But sometimes it helps just to give the person a space where she can have that space and say herself with the problem, and something is just enough to have a release and to bring more open condition to continue the practice. That has happened many times, where the practice got better because the mother could speak out what was her concern, her fear, her difficulty.
Thank you. Yes, and that brings us back to the listening to each other. I think that's super important, something we need to keep in mind, keep listening, because then we can hear these problems. And for parents as well, to speak out if there's anything that you feel is not working, don't just keep it to yourself. Make sure that you talk to your teachers about it, or to other parents. Sometimes talking to other parents can just help as much as talking to a teacher. There is something in the chat saying, if it's a two-parent home, do both parents need to be equally involved, or is it better for one of them to take the lead? And if there's two parents in the home, that's great. That's great news. Some people have that, some people have other situations, but if it's two, let's say, I would always suggest that one of them will take the lead. But the most important is that both of them are involved as much as possible, because that will create an environment where growth can happen and joy can happen. Because if one of the parents is very strongly into the practice and developing this part of the child, and the other one is not, there will be a conflict. So if both of them can be equally involved, even if one of them takes the lead, I think that's very important.
That's right.
Yeah. Good. Any last questions before we leave? Because it's getting late for many of you, and some of you especially very, very late. I can see some names here. I know you live very far away. Anybody would like to do one last, or add something to what we said? I think everyone's ready for bed. Okay.
I just think if people want to know more about how, if they're having problems with their children practicing and you don't know what to do and you've sort of lost the fun vibe, talk to your teachers, talk to other parents. If you see another child who's obviously having a great time, ask the parent, go, what do you do to make this work? Like, I need an idea. Because I have amongst my parents some great parents who are like consistently really creative. One of them, I'm like, you need to write a book. She comes up with fantastic ideas. And it's not a world secret or anything. And it's okay to ask someone and go, look, I'm having a hard time practicing. I don't think I'm natural at this. I'm trying my best. And just by saying that, another parent will be really willing to help. And the teachers are always willing to help. And if you get stuck, you know, the Suzuki community is a great place to ask questions because people will always answer, and they're mostly really nice people, and everyone's willing to lend a helping hand. So, you know, don't feel like you're lonely. And as a teacher, if you're a bit stuck and you don't know what to do with getting your students to practice more or something, also ask other teachers. You know, it's not necessarily about the student practicing more. It's just like you'd like the child to feel well, and even if their progress is snail paced, as long as they're doing it well and with love and with mastery at their snail pace, what more do we want? It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly okay if that's the child's pace. You know, so just ask other teachers. Everyone has great ideas. You're very open. Thanks, Guillaume.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, that's very important. That's one of the reasons we're having this chat today, because we can talk to each other openly, and there is no silly questions, to say it in this way. All questions are important, small
There
or
are no
big.
wrong questions.
No wrong question. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. And yes, there's always lots of different platforms that we can talk to each other. You can always email us. We can talk to it, or we, you know, if you're desperate, you can always call. You know, there's always somebody on the other side that you can talk to. So don't feel isolated, even if you're physically isolated. These days, we can connect to anyone. So make sure that you keep in touch. And I will let you know when there is another one of these talks, and I hope you can all come back. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Christophe and Michelle, and thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
you.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely
Bye, everyone. Have a nice
evening.
evening.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Okay. Thank you
Bye,
all.
everyone. Have a nice evening. Thanks, Guillaume.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.